What's up, ladies and gents, Ghost here, back with some hardware discussion today, and we're going to be talking graphics cards, and specifically the new AMD graphics cards. Now, in the background we have yet again some more Battlefield 4 beta footage, and I know you guys must be getting a little bit tired of seeing Siege of Shanghai. I know I am, but I really haven't been going on to Battlefield 3, so I don't have any footage I can display for you guys from there. I just don't really feel like going back to that game, you know, getting used to that, and then like in 6 days time Battlefield 4 is coming out. So I'm just going to stick with Deus Ex and StarCraft 2 until Battlefield 4 has come out, and then I'm going to be all over that stuff, man. However, the footage is not what we're going to be discussing today. That is irrelevant. We're going to be talking graphics card, and it's always the big debate: should you go for an Nvidia card or should you go for an AMD card? And as most of you will know, a new set of cards from AMD has just started to hit the shelves. Now, for this new set of cards, AMD has started to go with a new naming scheme. So the 4-letter naming scheme, like we had the 7000 series last, that's gone now. Now we have the R7 and the R9 cards, and the R7s are the lower end cards, and in those we have the 240, the 250 and the 260X, and then the R9 cards are slightly towards the higher end of things, and in there we have the 270, the 280X and the 290X. I think there's also an X at the end of the 270 there, which just signifies that it has a little bit more oomph and power. You guys know I like to delve deep into stats, so we're going to be looking at some benchmarks later in the video, and something actually interesting came up. First of all, AMD had a presentation where they were introducing their new line of graphics cards, and I think this happened, it was either at the end of September or at the very start of October, and they introduced a new piece of engineering called Mantle that they're introducing into all of their new graphics cards, and certain games are going to be able to take advantage of this, and among those games is Battlefield 4. So in December, DICE will actually be releasing an update for Battlefield 4 which allows it to take advantage of the Mantle capabilities of the new AMD graphics cards. So it's certainly going to be interesting to pick up one of those cards, run Battlefield 4, see how it runs, and then when the Mantle update comes along, see what kind of an improvement we can get. Now, personally, I've been sort of tossing up the idea of getting a 290X, which is the new flagship card for AMD, but also a 780 GTX from Nvidia. And originally, I was going to go straight out and buy myself a 780 because I really wanted to be ready for the Battlefield 4 beta, and I wanted to be ready for the Battlefield 4 main game, but everybody actually advised me against doing that, and that's why I didn't have that ready for the beta. They said, wait, hold on a minute, let's see what AMD brings to the table and how it compares against the 780. And these are some benchmarks that I'm going to be showing you in just a minute. Now, a short while after AMD held their press conference, Nvidia had theirs. Somewhere in America, they invited a lot of members of the press over, flew them out so they could come and see some of Nvidia's new products. And AMD kind of pulled a bit of a douchey move, really. It was a bit of a dick move. What they did is they rented a room in a hotel across the street from where Nvidia were holding their press conference, and they invited members of the press into this room to come and look at some benchmarks. And what they had set up there was the GTX780 with one rig from Nvidia, and then they had their own flagship card, the R9 290X, set up on another rig, and they were benchmarking these games, or these graphics cards, with Tomb Raider and I think BioShock 2 against each other, and they were showing the outcome to a lot of people from the press. That was kind of lame of them in a way, because they were stealing the limelight, you know, to go to Nvidia's press conference and just try and wrangle in some of the reporters and stuff who were sent out there and flown out there by Nvidia on their money to come and sort of see the competition. Is a little bit of a dick move, but all the same, we actually got to see some benchmarks from there, and that's what you're seeing on the screen at the moment. Now, apparently, people are only really allowed to release benchmarking for these two games in these exact resolutions and graphical settings. You're not allowed to release anything more than that. Somebody has gone against the NDA and actually released some more numbers. I'm not going to put them in the video because I fear that my video actually may get taken down because they're not allowed to be released yet. But if you want to go and check them out, you can find them easily enough via a Google search. But what I can tell you is that the 290X from AMD seems to be outperforming the 780 in pretty much every situation. In fact, once they were testing it on BioShock Infinite and Tomb Raider, it actually outclassed the 780 by about 15 to 20%, which is quite considerable. Now, when this card is put into Uber mode, which is essentially their version of overclock, it actually is outclassing the Titan in a lot of benchmarks as well. Now, there have been some complaints about the card so far, at least with AMD's version of it with their cooler, that the card is running very noisily, it uses a lot of power, and it makes a lot of heat. Now, it has two settings. It has quiet mode and Uber mode. Now, quiet mode, it is still outclassing the 780 in this mode, but doesn't quite catch the toes of the GTX Titan. But if you switch it up to Uber mode, in a lot of benchmarks on certain games, especially at higher resolutions, it's able to outclass the Titan. Now, this does come at a cost, of course, because it does make a lot of heat, and it makes, apparently, a lot of noise as well. And for somebody like me, this is quite an issue, because obviously I record, my microphone picks up absolutely everything. It picks up the fans from my computer, so if one of those fans is louder than the rest, that's really increasing the noise volume that's coming from inside my computer, and isn't really optimal for my recordings. But that said, there will be aftermarket coolers, of course, from companies like EVGA, Gigabyte, MSI. They all have their own versions of these graphics cards, and no doubt they will be making aftermarket coolers that outclass the ones that AMD have stuck on there. So that remains to be seen. Now, on top of that, we also have the Mantle update coming in December, and this isn't going to be for all games. The cards themselves, I believe, will ship with Mantle, but this will be an upgrade that games developers will have to decide to make themselves. So DICE have already said that for Battlefield 4 they are going to do this. They will be releasing an update in December for Mantle, and then people using these new AMD cards should see a pretty nice increase in their frame rates. Now, it's not to say that every games developer out there, however, is going to implement this into their software. So if you're buying a card and thinking that Mantle is going to improve it on every game, then unfortunately you're wrong. It's not. And then again, Nvidia has PhysX and things like that that are specific to their cards only. So I think all these things need to be taken into consideration. Now, another reason to actually wait with buying your Nvidia card, even if you decide, once you've seen the benchmarks for the 290X and the 280X, or whatever card you're thinking of getting, I would still wait till these cards are out, because they are definitely going to drive the price of the Nvidia cards down. Currently, for me, the 780 is, I think it's like around $600, so it's pretty expensive, and hopefully the 290X coming out, being more powerful than it and also being cheaper than it, will hopefully drive the price of the 780 down a little bit. So I hope you enjoyed this little discussion on graphics cards today, guys. I can't wait for Battlefield 4. It's right around the corner. It's literally so close you can almost smell it, a few days away, and I can't wait to start making a ton of content for you guys and playing some games. If you enjoyed the video, do us a favour, give it a thumbs up down below if you learned something, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.